What up, y'all? I want to share with you all a few tools that I use or platforms that I use when it comes to AI comparison or looking at the different models and how they compare to each other. And Deep Sweet is one of the first ones I want to share with you all. It's Deep SWE, like the SSWWUV. I'm a old school R&B fan, but when it comes to AI, this is one of my favorite platforms to look at. I wasn't looking at this, let's say 6 months to a year ago. This is the newest one compared to the other two I'm going to share with you all. But this has now become one of my favorite ones. And as you can see here, I'm on the cost right here, the cost tab, and we can see the average cost per task. That's what we're looking at versus how efficient it actually is. And that's why you see when it goes to the left here, when you see these AI models go up to the left, they're costing more money. As you can see, we have 25 right here, $25. So we have Fable 5 at $22. We have Claude Sonnet 5 at $26 right here at the max level. So you can see average cost per task, right? Not the cost per task all the time, it's the average. And then when it comes to the sweet spot for me, when I look at the sweet spot of these AI models and what interests me the most in terms of my everyday usage, not my experimentation or me wanting to just, do something to create content. I'm talking about, no, I use this stuff in real life. That's how I like to teach my stuff. And I don't want to be basing all my activities on theory. I want to get down and dirty with it. And I look at it like this. Anything that's northeast or up to the right, up and to the right is most efficient, and that's what I want to use more time than not. So as we can see, we have Claude Opus up here now since Claude Opus 5 has dropped. Maybe when you watch this video, we're at Claude Opus 7. I'm not telling you specifically what models to use. I'm giving you the theory. I'm giving you the practicality. Let me take that back. I just talked about not doing theory. I'm giving you the practicality and the method, right? The method to my madness. the method to my madness and the strategy part, right? And I look at it like this. I want to use everything up here. So that's why I think Kimi K3 is a good model to use because you can see it's up here far to the right, way more than you see a Sonnet from Claude, right? Or Gemini 3.1 Pro, but you see 3.5 Flash up here, and then you see 3.6 Flash here from Google model. So I would hope that this is going to take a leap up here, or they are going to get laughed at. So we'll see. The model hasn't dropped yet, but Gemini Pro, I'm hoping it's going to take a leap because right now Opus took a leap, GPT 5.6 Soul took a leap, Kimi took a leap. We see these models up here, right? And that's what's crazy is that the Kimi is the open source model. So this is the first one that's open source that is holding up to the current modern models of Opus 5 or Fable or GPT 5.6 Soul or even a Terra. The Terra models are crazy too. Like it's so close. Look at this. Terra is so close. If I just clear all of this and I do Fable, Terra, and then I'm going to go to Kimi and I'll do 3.6, right? So there we go. We can see that Terra is up there too. I don't use Terra as much. I like Soul a lot better, but Terra is close to Soul. And as you can see, this is how I look at how to use this chart. I don't just go to this chart and use this just for, oh, okay, this is cool. No, I look at it to get a baseline of where we are. And I can see, based on the efficiency of the models, is it worth my time? Is it worth my money? That's what it comes down to. That's why it says cost. Is it worth my money? Then we have output tokens, right? So how many tokens they're putting out on an average per task right here. We can see we have, Fable, lots of tokens. Opus, same thing, lots of tokens. Man, we over 100K per task, right? And that's for like the maxed out. Then we have steps. So this is what's cool about looking at this is how many steps does it take for the AI to do per task? And we can see from efficiency wise, 5.6 Soul is very efficient, right? And then we have Claude Opus 5, we have Fable 5. We can see that Kimi is not so efficient. And that's the biggest complaint that people are having about the model is yes, cost efficiency wise, great. Cost to accuracy, cost to power, great. But if we look at agent steps, it takes so much longer to get to certain things, right? I mean, max for Opus and max for Kimi are near the same, near the same. So that's how I look at this benchmark right here, this comparison tool. I like it. They are very accurate from what I'm told and from some of my own experience. Like what they say kind of holds up in terms of my real life practical experience of how I'm using this. I can tell you right now that Opus 5, ChatGPT 5.6 Soul, obviously Claude Fable, they hold up to what this chart is demonstrating. So that's one right there. Then we have artificial analysis. This was one of the first ones I used before I got hip to Deep Sui, right? Before I got hip to that, I used artificial analysis, and I looked at these major charts right here, or these main charts: intelligence, speed, and then cost per task, right? That's one thing that the Deep Sui didn't have, was the speed, at least not in this one. Now, I'm not going through all of the different charts it has. I'm just going off, if I just go to it real quickly and I look at the first thing that I see, I'm going on those charts. You guys can go and experiment yourselves and go and look at it. But in terms of artificial analysis, this is another really good platform, a company that does a great job at just comparing the models, doing their synthesis, and doing all the nerdy things that we don't want to do as people, right? We don't want to do all this stuff. We just want it to be done for us. That's how spoiled we are, but it is what it is. In terms of intelligence-wise, we can see Opus 5 is ranking the highest here, followed by Fable 5, followed by GPT 5.6 Soul. Then we have Kimi K3, right? And then we have Grok 4.5 high. Now, notice that Grok wasn't on this one. I wonder if it is in here and here. Yes, it was. Okay, so boom, I didn't turn that on. So we have Grok right there, 4.5 high. I just didn't have it turned on, but it's right there as well too. And people were looking at Grok sideways. Let's keep it all the way real with it. People were looking at Grok sideways. Here they come back with a vengeance. I'm hoping that Google does the same thing. The only reason why is because I like the aspect of competition, right? I like how they keep each other in balance, because you notice that certain ones, I ain't gonna call them out, yes I am, Anthropic, be having these attitudes as if they are all holy and thou, and they are man's greatest gift. And they can't do no wrong. They also don't have to be transparent until they're caught with their hand in the cookie jar. And even afterward, they're not going to say that they were taking the cookie. They're going to say, oh, well, we found out that there were too many cookies and we were just trying to make sure that there was enough cookies. I'm telling you, it's crazy. I'm just, I'm ragging on Anthropic. But my point is, that you just need these AI models to hold each other accountable. And you need these AI companies to hold each other accountable by being better, by getting better, and by implementing the feedback, but also sticking to their mission, right, and their vision for what they are creating. And it's that kind of modge podge, that merge, that balance between the two. And that's why I like looking at these kind of things. But Grok, I'm glad they came back. Hopefully Google does what they do. We'll see. Same thing with the open source models. They give the non-open source models, right, the closed models, they give them a run for their money. They make them better as well too. Then we look at speed. Now notice how when it comes to speed, you don't see any of these main ones up here anywhere close to this area right here, right? The closest you'll see is Gemini 3.6 Flash, but you see Gemini 3.6 Flash is now, down here, but it's up in terms of speed. Right, and then you have GLM right here. Is that on here? Yep, right here. So if you're looking for a balance between speed and intelligence, and let me make this a little bigger for y'all. If you're looking for a balance between speed and intelligence, that's how I would look at it. I would balance those two out. And then we have cost. Like, what is it going to cost me? So we see that DeepSeek is the cheapest, right? And then GPT, the open source model for GPT, it's also cheap. But notice we have far at the end here, Fable, Opus, the most costly. And then we have GPT 5.6 Soul, right underneath that. Then we have Kimi K3 right underneath there. So you can always take a snapshot of this and ask your AI of choice to give you an average. Like, what is that sweet spot based on this chart, the same way you can do with Deep Sui. And that's why I say I like using this tool. And then here's a bigger version of it if you want to dig into like the coding, the agent index, all this other nuanced stuff. They have all that there, but you can just literally just look at this and just get a snapshot of what's going on in the AI world, right? For those of y'all who don't want to dig deep into it, if you want a snapshot of what's going on in the AI world, these are the three charts that they have aggregated for you to be able to see. And then we have, last but not least, Open Router, which is traditionally different than what those other two are. This one actually is an AI model aggregate that allows you to plug or create an API key, and then you can plug your app or any other tool right inside here and use any model. That's not what these other two are for, but because they have the ability for you to plug in any A model, they also have rankings. So they measure the usage of these AI models. So they have their own in-house data, which is really dope. And that's why this is also a comparison, right? So we can see the top models here based on API usage. So most people who are using the API with these models, and that's why I have to explain, when you are using the subscription, you're not using the API. You're not paying per token as if you're paying, per every cent. If you're getting gas and you're putting it in your car, you're paying per gallon. No, this is a situation where if you're paying for a subscription, they allocate a certain amount that they're going to let you use for that 20, for that 100. Whereas API is cost per usage. So they don't stop you from using it. As if you use it, they're going to bill you as you go. And that's what the API is. And a lot of people don't use it that way because they're not needing to plug an AI model outside of their subscription, right, into a separate app, a separate application, a separate system, a workflow, something like that. So most people aren't doing it this way. But there is a segment of people, a group of people like me and others, developers, content creators are doing it too, educators, education houses, institutions, companies that are using the API, and they are either using it through the company that makes the model. They're using it through them, through their API. They have a separate API website, right? They have a separate site than their general subscription site. They have a separate site from that, right? They're using it through there, or they're using it through something like an Open Router that has all these AIs in one house. And you create an API key and you can access any AI model that they have inside of this tool. And so that's why I like to look at this, because it gives us the leaderboard based on who's using what. So comparison, the most popular models on Router, this new Mimo by, Exumi, I don't know. I mean, that's number one right now. We have DeepSeek. Now you'll notice a trend or a pattern that the most popular ones usually are open source. Like that, because they're the cheapest, right? So those are usually the most popular ones. However, when you see one on here that is popular, that's not open source, that should put something on your radar. Like, why is that? You know what I'm saying? It's not that cheap, but it's on the popularity, and it's, on open source top 10, like Opus 4.8, right? So we have that top models. We have, let's see, top models by task. Market share. Here, I'll go by top models by task. So 5.5, right? Number one. Sonnet 4.6. Opus 4.7. So these are models that people are using to actually get things done, which is pretty dope. Just because you're using a local model does not mean you are doing tool calling. You're getting tasks done with that model. That makes a huge difference for you to understand that. Some people are using the open models, right? The open source models for different things other than tool calling. But once you get into tool calling, you need something that can handle that. It's not worth it. I'm telling y'all, it ain't worth it to be using a open source model that does poor tool calling because you're trying to save money. You will waste more time and end up costing you over time more money, more effort, which costs you more money than actually using a closed source model for tool calling purposes or task purposes. So that's why you see this on here. As far as popularity wise, we see a lot of the closed ones, and Opus is really pretty much up there high, like just killing it in the top 10. Then you have Gemini taking over. We'll say Gemini has 4, but I count higher as far as more weight in that category. And then we have the market share here. Fastest models, just like what you see on artificial analysis, which ones go the fastest. So that's why I like these, because these really help give an indication on what AI models are out currently, which ones are theoretically the best versus which ones are actually being used. Open Router helps bridge that gap on which ones are actually being used by people who have programmed these AI tools to call, or these AI APIs to call these models. This is more humanistic than theory. in my opinion, and that's why I say you got to look at them all differently, but use them together. So we have deep SWE right here. We have artificial analysis right here. And then we have open router. And I went to the ranking section for open router, and we have that right here to be able to see the comparison of the different AI models. And that's what I want to share with you all, because to me, this is important to know, especially if you're spending money on these tools, especially if you're spending money on these AI platforms, and especially if you're going to go through the API, you definitely want to know what the costs are, what the efficiency is, what that's going to be, because that's going to run you up. It's going to run you up past your $20, $100, subscription that you pay for, that you don't have to use it. You're paying that same flat rate cost every month or a year, versus you're paying based on how many times these tools are used, whether that's inefficiently or efficiently. Even if it's not efficient, you're still paying for that. Whereas the $20, you cannot be efficient and you're only paying that $20. You're only paying that $100. That's a big difference. So that's why I look at these tools as a guide. You have to take them as a guide. Don't take them as verbatim of how you should do, what you should do, but take it as a guide. And then you go from there. And next thing you know, you cooking with grease. So that's my thoughts. If you like this video, man, don't forget to give it a thumbs up for the algorithm. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are, if this is something that you are also using, or if you've never heard of these tools and you're like, okay, I got to put that in my bag. You know what I'm saying? Throw it in the bag. I got to put it in my bag. I appreciate you all for watching this video. My name is Maestro Stevens with Iconic Templates, and I'm out. Peace.